Welcome everyone to the second session of the Club PAWB Summit. This is the Inclusion Club, which we have two fantastic clubs here that are doing some amazing work in Wales that are going to be sharing some of their knowledge, their experience, some of the initiatives that they've been delivering during this. And also you'll have the opportunity to ask them some more questions around some of the initiatives that they've shared or any advice you might want to have to try and implement their learnings at your club or organisation throughout Wales as well. So how this is going to work, the clubs will both have around 20 minutes to present each of their experiences and initiatives, as we mentioned. And then at the end, then we'll have the opportunity for you to ask some questions using the Q&A feature down the bottom or the chat, either or is fine, to be able to ask either of our guests questions at the end of it as well. So first of all, I'll introduce our first speaker. So we have Rachel Gavin here, who is the chairperson at Broadlands AFC. Now, Rachel's responsible for ensuring the club meets the needs of the community, along with developing and maintaining a sustainable community-run football club. She also works across the UK on football-related projects related to neurodiversity and neuroaffirming spaces and environments. So Rachel, welcome to the webinar for the Inclusion Club session. Now, Rachel, I know you're going to be presenting first, but I'll introduce our next guests as well before you get started. So first up, we have Chris Roberts, and also we have Ghazala. Now, Chris and Ghazala are from the North Wales Dragons. Now, Chris is co-founder of the award-winning North Wales Dragons, a recreational football club that hosts football events to help raise funds and awareness for the benefit of charitable organisations in the UK and the rest of the world. He helps to bring businesses, charities and community groups together to make positive difference socially, economically and environmentally for the benefit of each other and their communities by utilising recreational football for a purpose, fulfilling the desire to do good work and to give back. So welcome to this session, Chris. And last but not least is Ghazala Jabin. Now, Ghazala plays for the North Wales Dragons, who are a Llandudno-based grassroots club, prioritising a player environment that is based on exclusivity rather than ability. The Dragons actively support LGBTQI, anti-sexist and anti-ageist initiatives. The club have also been supporters of the Show Racism the Red Card organisation and partnered with the anti-sexism campaign Her Game 2, which features on the club's training kit, jumpers and shorts. And Ghazala is also a business coach and mentor. So some fantastic guests and clubs that, as you've already seen from the introduction, is doing some amazing work within their communities in Wales. So, Rachel, I'm going to hand over to you to take us through some slides around some of the work that you've been doing at Broadlands AFC.
Yep, thank you. Okay, so at the moment we have developed a programme. So we're based in Bridgend in South Wales, so one of the local clubs there. And what we were doing, probably last year, was looking at where the gaps are across South Wales, but wider than that as well. And so we're particularly interested in working with neurodivergent children and young people. And many of us in the club have a work connection or a personal connection as well. So it was quite important for us to be able to develop some new programmes where we were doing some research locally and wider as well across Wales. And there was a lot of concern for the neurodivergent community in terms of accessing grassroots sports, but particularly football and maintaining their role within local football clubs. So this is where the programme started to develop. So as a club, we're very committed to address a major challenge in frontline football practice. And the main thing related to this is the knowledge base, so the education side of things. So working from theory into practice. And what we find is, I think the best or the easiest way to explain it is when we're able to access learning and we access training from generally providers, whatever that may be, sometimes that can be difficult for transferring that knowledge and your learning to, so how does this work in practice? So that was the element of this programme that we needed to look at and how we do that. So the goal of the club is to has been to start looking at a programme and support for the neurodivergent community, but with them as well, everyone is very much part of joint working and trying to improve accessibility across Wales. In particular, as I say, we needed to look at the theory to the practice element, and so we've developed a training programme. And we're also going to be developing mentors, so specialist mentors who will work alongside the coaching team. All volunteers across the club will be having access to the training and the support, but we'll actually have specialist mentors as well to be able to provide that additional support when required. So one of the things, or one of the goals that we sort of work from, is nothing about us without us, which for us, it's not doing for, it's working with. And that's what we found really very helpful in terms of, we've had children and young people who've been the core of this programme and the development of that, to be able to ensure that we're meeting wider needs as well. And one of the things we need to look at is competency. And the reason why I say that is because that is one of the most important things. So in terms of our competency in being able to truly create an accessible football and teams across Wales. But again, it's about how we do that in practice. So this is where this programme is coming from and where it started and where we need to transfer it to. So we're going from the theory to the practice and bringing that theory down into the mentors to be able to deliver that on the ground, essentially. So what we're looking at as well is the sensory environment and the impact on neurodivergent children and young people and what we can do about it. So you may or may not have heard of the 8 senses, of the sensory profiles, and exploring what the sensory element does, but exploring the fascinating and the sensory world generally, but through a neurodivergent lens, and accepting that lots of children, young people, will have completely different sensory profiles. So you meet, for example, one autistic child, which is why we want to develop the competency across football as well, because it's something that's really important to us as a club. So we've teamed up, as I said, with neurodivergent community and who've been very much children and young people part of the development of this. And the aim of the programme is to pilot it first off in Bridgend with Broadlands AFC. And the reason why we're piloting it, sort of keeping that contained at the moment, is because what we do, we've developed the programme, we've put that into place, we've got everything in place that we need. And what we want to do is review that over the time of the pilot, so we can look at what's working well, what's not working well, to be able then to support clubs across Wales to hopefully develop some more programmes in terms of that and the accessibility of their clubs, and to really help improve that. And so it would be a better opportunity for us to develop that and support it first before we can support other clubs, which is what the aim of this is. So it's not just focused on our club alone, it's what we want to do is to support others as well. And I think that's a massive part of the football community in general, and a huge benefit that I think I see a lot in the working together, which is going to be very helpful for this line of work, really. So we want to get to the point where no matter where the child is, where they live in, or what environment, they need to have a choice. They have support. They have allies. Essentially, we want to make football more accessible across Wales. So there's more choice in that. So any club a child will be able to access will be able to have that support available to them, and it'll almost become the support network will be there, the competency will be there across football. I mean, that's it's a big sort of big something to speak about, really, but it's something we do need to do in terms of truly making football really very accessible. So the aims and the objectives are the 4 key priority themes for Broadlands: equality and diversity in grassroots sports, as I've talked about. And we want to increase the access and the opportunities in football for children, young people and adults, and to make football truly inclusive. So autistic safety, so this is an example as well, in terms of the education side of things. And neurodivergence competency in grassroots sports is really very important to us, which is why we've developed an education programme. We've also had a lot of support from local universities as well, who supported us with this, because if we say education is one of the most important starting points, to be able to develop from there. Because it's not always enough, and the community will tell you this, it's not always enough to be neurodiversity affirming, because we do need to have foundational knowledge and the perspective provided by engagement with the community in question. And we should be active in those communities as well. So I put, for example, it's not enough to have studied medicine and read some relevant sections of a textbook to understand what autism and ADHD might look like in a day-to-day life. We need to understand, for example, autistic experience and neurodiverse culture. So that's what we're looking at in the training programs, which I'll show you some snippets of that. So autism plus environment equals outcome. So when we talk about that, we don't just mean the physical environment, we mean everyone around the children, the child, the young person. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, and we need to start off from a good, very sort of well-informed environment, really. And what we do in the training programme is teach how to do that and how to deliver that. That's your basic, where your starting point is going to be coming from. And then also education, and so yes, a tangible delivery facilities to truly ensure the inclusive nature of the environment is absolutely critical. So as a club, safety and competency was one of the most important points that came through during our research. And our experience is that in order to support a neurodivergent person, you need two things. Safety and competency were those two matters that we needed to look at, and they came up very, very quickly. So we're committed to addressing the challenge in frontline football practice. And so it's the implementation again of the knowledge, the theory, to daily practice in football. With what we have found, as I say, that's been lacking in some practical strategy from discussions with some football clubs and people, neurodivergent children and young people as well. So the training model. So this is a snippet. There's a lot more to the training model than this. So what we're going to be doing is we've developed a training package itself, and the umbrella of neurodiversity is what we're going to be starting off with, and then the specialist mentors and coaches will be very much part of that as well. We would like to expand that to parents that have children in our club as well, and be able to share that eventually. But like I say, we need to, we're developing this in the club and maintaining that at the moment, just to make sure that we can support as best as we possibly can on a wider level. So we're going to be looking at the models of disability, the safeguard and legal duties as well. We're going to be looking at executive functioning in football, and this is a major area, as well as something called interoception as well. And why we're looking at that is because part of the research that we were doing, there was difficulties for children and coaches who would often struggle when they had their coaching badges and they were doing the training sessions. Sometimes they would struggle to help support a child with the executive functioning, which is the planning, helping the child understand sort of the instructions of the coaching, so the planning, the organising elements, and sensory sensitivities and interoception. So you may not have heard, or you may have heard of interoception before. But where there are children who struggle, neurodivergent children who might struggle with, the best example I can give you to try and explain this is a child who struggles with the nervous system essentially, and might, to the average person, look like they, can struggle to go from 0 to 100 very quickly, and they really struggle to regulate their emotions and their challenges. And that can be quite difficult for a coach to manage, or coaches to manage, when there's 27 children there. And so what we're doing is teaching what that looks like, so what the nervous system does in those situations, how to pick up on sensory profiles of children, because every child is different, has a different profile. Some will struggle a little bit more in certain areas than others. So what we're doing is teaching how to manage behavior, and I do not really like that word, challenging behavior. So I would change that to communication. So behavior is communication. And so it's thinking in a different way and looking at, okay, what is this child struggling with? What can we help the child with? And we're going to teach the mentors and the coaching staff in terms of how to foster interoception and help the child be able to manage regulation strategies. So it's a bit, there's a lot going on with the project itself. We're going to be teaching about autism with the more recent research. So we're talking about monotropism, which is something I know a lot of people might not understand yet, and hyperfocus and how this all fits with football, and when children are accessing football training and coaching support as well. So we are going to need to bring mentors and coaches up to really up to speed and being able to deliver and meet a very wide range of needs. So we're also going to be teaching about as I said, the fostering interoception, how to work with a child who really is struggling with their regulation and to self-regulate as well, and how that actually works in practice on the actual pitch and how you manage that as a coach and a mentor. So the mentors are there to provide that additional support on the pitch. We're looking at autism in girls and how autism for girls sort of presents quite differently at times, and we're going to be talking about autistic masking and trauma responses. There's a lot of information I'm giving you at the moment, but when it's a 2-day program, so it's a lot to get through, but it's something that we absolutely need and is not available at all in Wales at the moment. So hopefully with the fantastic support we already have and from FAW and other supports as well, it's been really helpful to get this up and running, and we're really excited about it. So the theory to the practice. So as I talked about, we are developing the mentors alongside the coaches. It's not easy, as we all probably know, in accessing and volunteers. So there's practical advice I could give on that is we're quite fortunate. We've got very fantastic volunteers in the club. But there's also providers such as we got PAWB, which is in the Bridgend area, and they support clubs and charities and companies with volunteers as well. So make sure you access those sorts of resources. We contact football clubs, college, who there may be young people or adults that are doing coaching, training and qualifications as well. So there's lots of different means of hopefully collating volunteers for the programme. So we look at one-page profile. So you need to be aware of your GDPR, your data protection as well. So just to make sure you've got policies in place. But what the one-page profile does, so when a child comes into the club, we collate the profile about that child, the support needs, tolerances, any concerns from the parents, their strengths, and lots of different bits of different information really that really give us a good understanding of the child. Each age group, we're going to aim to have 3 volunteers per age group, and they're going to be trained by the we've got a neurodiversity lead in the club at the moment. So we're going to be training that lead as well, which I'll explain a little bit more about. So the lead neurodiversity officer then will be the supporter of the mentors and all the volunteers within the club, and we'll be sort of delivering the training like a trainer model. So we'll be training the mentors and providing some supervision and support throughout the pilot programme, and this will also give us the information that we need in terms of the support levels that each club might have, or what the programme might need to look like in terms of support for other clubs as well. So we have quite a lot of contact from clubs in a range of sports, really, about developing more accessible support for football, rugby and other sports as well. So we also, our lead officer, neurodiversity officer, is sort of looks at that in an internal training sort of setting, and up on new competencies and supports through supervision as well, as I said. And it's also a great development and professional development opportunity for any volunteers with us. And that could be quite helpful outside of football as well. So there's a lot to take on here, and I have really gone through that quite quickly to get that done in 20 minutes for you. But any questions at all, I'm open to that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. Some incredible work that you're really leading the way on there. We're creating that inclusive environment for neurodivergent young people. And I know that, you know, we have unfortunately many emails from parents who don't feel that their children's needs are being supportive. And as you've sort of presented there, some of the work that you've been doing, often the solutions are straightforward and simple. And it's just ensuring that people are aware of some of the adaptations they can make, either in their coaching style or their communications, or the practices themselves as well. You know, and certainly we're leading quite well to the final session that we have this evening as well. So we will move on to the next session, but please, you know, any questions that you have for Rachel based on some of her sessions, please put them down in the chat or the Q&A, and I'm sure we'll have a little bit of time to get them at the end of the session. So let me just unshare your screen there. So over to Chris now and Gazala from the North Wales Dragons to take us through this session.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having us along just to share a bit more about what it is that we do. We are a recreational football team. We started 15 years ago with a mad idea in 2000.
Oh, we just lost him there for a second.
More football matches now. It started off as this one mad idea, this, just like I say, this one football match. That's all we were going to do. It raised £2,200 for a charity called Boots for Africa. We were beaten 10-0 in our first game, and I walked off the pitch thinking never again, never again. And everybody around me said, of course we're going to do this next year. And that's exactly what happened. So we thought, if we could do it for one charity, we can do it for two. And then the year after, we thought, if we could do it for two charities, we could do it for four. Year after, we thought, if we could do it for four charities, we could do it for 8. And then we hit a ceiling. Because purely of resources and time and what have you, we just held it at 8 from 2012 onwards. And so that carried on. We were doing men's training sessions because that's how it all started off, purely as a men's team, and it was all based on inclusivity rather than ability. So we had some guys who were playing with us, and they were playing their tournaments and what have you, and it would be their cup final. Some of them had never even kicked a ball before. So we've got the minimum age of 16, but we've got no upper limit. So the eldest guy who plays for us is 67 years old. And to be honest, he's one of the best players on the pitch. He stands in the middle of the park and he just sprays it out just casually. We have no, what shall we say? We have no kind of expectation on our players. They can come and play for 5 minutes and walk around the pitch. They can come and play for 90 minutes and run around the pitch. It's exactly and entirely up to how they feel about it. When we got to 2019, it was our 10-year anniversary, and we thought to ourselves, what do we want to go forward now? So we thought, well, obviously it's a ladies team now. And that's the way that we thought that we would start to move things along with the North Wales Dragons. Slowly but surely, we were putting the team together. But then COVID hit. 2020, 2021, it was, you know, we had all our best intentions. 2021 comes along, and then we managed to get North Wales Dragons, I won't say football team, it was North Wales Dragons women's team. And I say that loosely because we were having training sessions. One lady was turning up one week, two ladies were turning up, and that was how it rolled for probably about 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden, we were having more and more ladies join us. And there was a development within the ladies team that has now, as I speak today, I'll hand over to Gazala in a minute. As we are today, it's developed even more than what the men's game is. So just to put it in context, we've probably got about 50 male players, and we've probably got about 50 female players who play. I'll hand you over to Gaz now, just to...
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, Rachel, I just wanted to say that was really good, insightful, work that you've shared with us, which again broadens what we're all talking about in the place of football, but also understanding that there are places of difficulties and challenges, and education is key to us to sharing and embracing, and for us to share on this wonderful platform here today for everyone is really important, because everyone has a story and everything is supporting it from all different walks of life. So my involvement with the Dragons, my background was, as you mentioned earlier on, Jason, with regards to being a business coach in business world and etc. But that's all wonderful, and I've done amazing work and still am doing so, coaching people from all walks of life in business and growth and entrepreneurship. But we all have personal tragedies that hit us, and mine was that I lost my husband of 25 years to cancer. So for me, it was a point where everything in your world that you've worked hard to suddenly crashes, and you just don't want to be out there. And Chris had known me and supported me because I was doing, again, both of us have one thing great in common, which was supporting charities, great causes, great organizations, and really spreading awareness of the work that we do. And Chris could see that grief really hit me heavy, even as a dance teacher doing Bollywood dance teaching, which gives you the feeling of joyful dancing, and you're supposed to be out there smiling. And the term tears of a clown, yeah, that's it. You go and perform, you present, you do, but nobody really knows what you're dealing with behind the scenes. So Chris was very close to me on supporting of my fundraising for that. And one day he says, you know something, why do you, because they realized I was hibernating in my space of grief. And when you feel that as much as you're smiling at the world, your inner world is very lonely, and there's a big shift and a change, and you keep smiling and they see it, but they don't really know there's a bigger, deeper space there. And Chris says, why don't you come and join us? And with this, we've got this women's football thing starting, and come and play football with us. I said, Chris, what do I know about football? I can dance. I can teach dancing. I can teach business. What do I know about football or anything about it? He said, well, you hop, skip and jump with your dance moves. Well, you can do a hop, skip and jump with the football. And it'd be fun anyway, just come out. So, well, reluctantly, but I said, okay, because I have a great deal of respect for Chris and the work that he does. And when you see his profile, he's a larger than life person in what his work is, out there with a guy with a big heart and contributing to others massively. So when you hold somebody in really good, high respect and regard of their work, you can't say no to them. So off I went along, and there's 2 or 3 girls that are kicking a ball. I just looked at them and he said, there you go. And I was like, now what? So I saw the ball, I saw the goal. I thought, and do I dance the football ball into the goal? And it was one of them silly little things that I did. And the girls laughed and they joked. And I said, look, I'm not really cut out for all this, I mean, what do I know? And what happened was, through the practices that we were doing, I actually kicked the ball and I said, yes, I scored. like you'd think I've got the FA Cup, you know, or something like that. I said, yes, I've scored. And it was just a fun little like moment of joy. And then after that, I would do a little Bollywood dance. So the girls kind of embraced my culture, right, within it. And again, I was one of the older girls in the club, right? And then they were talking about one of the other players, Sean. They said, you haven't met Sean yet. She's really lethal on the pitch. She's serious. She's a serious player, which kind of scared me. But she came on the pitch and she could boot that ball in the goal. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because I had tried to be in goal. Only I got beat with the ball, with the bruise, and etc. I found it kind of funny in a way, but the girls laughed because the kind of chaos that we had around with it was also funny. Long and short of that became that more and more girls kind of saw it, and my background was media marketing. So I would show my silly little moves, my silly little kicking about, my silly little dancing, my fun little way, and kept it light-hearted, really. And people kind of embraced the Gaz is getting out and playing football. And we don't know about the volley bit, but she's definitely doing the volleyball now. So there we go. And then other girls started joining, and I started to create the awareness of women in football. And then we had all ages, all backgrounds, all cultures. Everybody and everyone started to come from viewing, watching, seeing, joining. And before we knew it, we had also then had the social aspect of the North Wales Dragons Women's Football Club. So the boys would play on the pitch opposite, the girls would be on this side, and then they're like, how come the girls always got a party thing going on? Because we'd actually, one of the girls would have a birthday, and then you'd have a cake on the pitch, and we're like, happy birthday in it to everybody. And so that kind of kicked in, and we then had, we went on the, away games as well. And that allowed for us to see how competitive our side was. And then the real inner competition part of the players kicked in. Then we'd have the training session, and then Chris would sit on one side by the goal, and I'd say, you are going to get that ball to your face if you're not careful. It was one of them things, and we're protective of him, but he's had a few good goals coming his way. So from that led to understanding each woman's journey. Then it became personal, and the friendship bonded and the support bonded. And if one was down, there was everybody cheering you on because they got you. And then there was somebody else that came with a different story, their different background. And when we did the football tournament, of course, we did the camping. So we all got ourselves together, got ourselves geared up, who was being what. The first year was our one team, which was our kind of like, I'm wearing like a purple color top, which is a purple team. And then we had sponsorship of EE and various big names out there for our sponsorship. So we, with pride, we were doing that. But at the same time, on our shirts, we'd have charities like Tigaboy Children's Hospice, their logo on, and then of course Tyler Robinson Foundation, which is a huge organization, which Chris will tell you a bit more about. So we would share who we're supporting, which became the greater part to the game, is the bigger impact we're making, even though, and I jokingly say to Chris, you know, when I do my posts, I say, we don't just kick a ball and score goals, we make a difference in our communities. And that part of it is when our unity in community really allowed people to really feel like this is a lot more than that. And then suddenly, from all this kind of the grieving process, then became a go-to place and a place to be happy on the pitch, and with the work that we were doing. And there was a sense of giving back more. There was more reward in giving back and supporting each other through a bigger concern. And when you get our team captain that says to me, Gaz, I have a question for you. Chris doesn't even know that, I don't think. And then you get a message that says to you 2 days ago, Gaz, could you be team captain for our next tournament that we're doing? I'm like, what? I can't do team captain. I'm just about getting to score. But they're like, what we like about what you're doing, one is your confidence on the pitch, two, your leadership skills on the pitch, and three, how you delegate and see where people fit in. So my mentorship business part of it and etc. was then also seen by team captain and the manager and of course the groupies, and they felt actually Ghazala is really good at organizing it. And if you haven't seen our TikTok videos on our football thing, you need to see that, because that will give you a good chuckle about how fun football is and how much fitness and energy and support and the love, not only of the game, but the support of, like Rachel shared, the support of other organizations sharing the big message, and us kind of being the cheerleaders of other organizations coming together, and for women of all ages and all backgrounds. And my Pakistani background was very much that you don't show your leg, and legs in football, and I'm wearing shorts, and then they're like, my Asian community are saying, you not got your legs covered. Like this, and I'm like, right. So there was a culture part that's coming into diversity, inclusion, and equality and everything. And then my son, who used to play football and still does, and he's like, Mom, do you actually score goals, or you just kick about or dance? What do you do, Mom? So when I was scoring the goals, I would send my children the goal scoring machine. They call me the goal scoring machine, Jabeen, the goal scoring machine. It's quite funny, really. And then I show them that, and they're like, whoa, you got a hat trick, Mom? I said, I did it 5 times. So that's more than a hat trick. So they have a laugh about it. So I got my children as my cheerleaders, but they felt Mom's found the love of life again. And football gave me the love of life, and I love giving back. And I can't thank Chris enough to bringing me into the scene of, the Jabeen on the scene. And that's what we do. But I'll pass it back to Chris, because Chris is also very humble in who he is as a person that does it. But how big the Dragons have got is this man opens doors, shake hands, does collaborations and great projects. Because when I was given the opportunity to represent Wales, to be for Leaders of All Nations International as a chairperson for Wales, I knew Chris's vision was he wanted to take football globally, of every nation around the world. This allowed for us to connect up, and then we've now got the opportunity that we've connected up with huge groups all around, biggest leaders around the country, that they're now asking for Chris to support, and not only as an advisor to the football part of it, but also the bigger cause of giving back. And we've got a family fun day, which is bringing children in, parents in, playing football, and showing the fun of equality, diversity, and inclusion. So over to you, Chris, if I want to pass it back.
Thank you for bigging me up. How do I follow that? So basically, all our football matches, they have a theme, and the theme is, each one has got a charitable element to it. So we'll choose a charity, or somebody will come to us and say, can we play you to raise money for such and such a charity? And that's the way that it's been going. This year, back in June, we had our 15th anniversary. There were 2 things that we said that we would love to do. Firstly, we would love to have North Wales Dragons, or a type of Dragons football team, all around the world. It's a huge thing. It's a huge undertaking. But if we could place a Dragons team in Asia to start with, in America, in Australia, you name it, just as a kickoff. Oh, excuse the pun, as a kickoff. Then that's what we would love to do. I would love to leave that legacy behind, where I could feel that was growing and growing. As Gaz just mentioned, now one of the things that we wanted to do is we wanted to form a children's football team. And again, that's based on inclusion rather than ability. And this is where Rachel pricked my ears up before, because I always believe that every child should have the opportunity to play. Even if they've never kicked a ball before, they should all be included. Every child should be included to have a go at kicking a ball. But that's just, I'm just being targeting on football, but any sport, Wales, we're known for rugby. Kicking the ball again, kicking a rugby ball, but any sport, be involved in any kind of sport that you can. We should bring the children in to do it. We mentioned Tyler Robinson Foundation earlier on. that is a charity that is based on pediatric cancer, based in Las Vegas. Some of you will have heard of the band Imagine Dragons. It was formed by Imagine Dragons, and it was one of their supporters. So what we do is, on our women's football shirts and on our men's football shirts, we carry their logos on the back of their shirts. We've made children's cancer a bit of a priority. So what we've done is we've connected to Bluebell Hospice in Sheffield. That's the English connection. Seagull Eyes here in Wales, cancer hospitals across Scotland, and also children's hospices in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And that is where we're using recreational football to make a difference, so that we've got this inclusivity, because even, believe it or not, even cancer patients who are children as well, they have a desire to come and play as well. And if we can form a platform to allow that to happen, fucking heck, am I going to go for it? And I think both me and Ghazala and the rest of the team, the rest of the 100 who are out there at the moment, we'll certainly make a good go of it. And we thank you all for allowing us to spread this kind of word for us. You know, we don't get this opportunity often to share what it is that we do. But we love what we do. We hope it comes across that we love what we do. And yeah, thank you all for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you both. And I think as you know, outside of all of the amazing support that you're doing for various charities and organizations, I think, Ghazala, your story around how when a club really puts the environment and embedding the right culture within the club, the impact that it can have on individuals, and I think that certainly, I know that the Northwell Dragons are really put that at the forefront of their thinking, and it, you know, your testament really goes out to the impact that they can have, which is why very much our Club PAWB program is very much the core focus on that. And as you said, Chris, that, you know, we believe that everybody should have the opportunity to participate and be included and play football irrespective of their ability. And I think you know, the club certainly embodies that, and I'm sure will continue to go from strength to strength. So we're coming towards the end of the session a little bit, but we have got time for any questions. So if anyone did have any questions for either of Ghazala, Rachel, or Chris, please drop them in the chat. I will ask one question to get us going until somebody posts something. Rachel shared some great stuff that you're doing, again, with the environment of the club to be inclusive for the specific community that you're focusing on. I wonder, when you started really introducing this work, how you kind of practically went about getting the buy-in from some of the coaches that suddenly might have to change their coaching styles, their communication styles, their session plans to accommodate obviously the needs of the children and young people that you have with this approach.
Yeah, I think for many, it may be quite challenging. I think we may just be very lucky. We've got very enthusiastic coaches, volunteers. And so we didn't have any challenges, in all honesty, but I think, you know, it is a lot of commitment as well. So, and you know, the individuals are volunteers. So yeah, but I think I think you talked about the culture, didn't you, in cross football clubs and how important that is. And yeah, I think it's that sort of culture for learning really, and always improving, and we have that in the club, particularly the last year as well. So but yeah, we've had a lot of support, but it's about giving back to the volunteers as well, and making sure that they have access to sort of the education side of things, you know, even if qualification certificates, you know, they're just very much they're cherished, to be honest, in our club. But everyone is but yeah, we're very fortunate that we've got people like that.
And I'm sure it's one of those things, once you start to see the impact of when you start adapting
Yeah.
your delivery style or the sessions, the impact they can have,
Yeah.
and seeing the joy on young people's faces is almost the reward, and
Definitely.
it gives you the reason why you
Yeah.
do what you do, essentially.
And also we've had children who have really struggled in lots of different sports clubs and haven't been able to maintain their place there, and we have supported a lot of children who were in that position and have gone on to academies now. We've got a few children who've gone on to academies and are playing really well. So yeah, I think that helps as well, because the coaches know that, right, all this work, all this commitment is absolutely worth it. When you see that happening with that child only a year ago, with a few in mind that weren't able to maintain their place, and that shouldn't be the case, you know. So yeah, that's been amazing to see how well, and the confidence more than anything. It doesn't not just about academy though, it's about confidence as well. Because as I'm talking, I'm picturing certain children who I've seen that have, you know, come in with hardly any confidence at all, struggling to make and maintain friendships. And so we've been able to work with those children. Our coaches are absolutely amazing. So yeah, it's worth all the time in the world.
Brilliant. Again, it just highlights the right environment can really
Yes.
help everyone thrive to achieve whatever, you know, they want that's relevant to them, you know, and
Yeah.
their own dreams. And just last but not least, kind of quickly, Chris and Ghazali, you've obviously done a lot of work and almost using football as a tool for social change and to impact on communities, which leads us quite well onto our first session tomorrow evening. But just quickly, kind of, you know, what do you see the benefits of all the work that you've done for your community by using football as that tool, that vehicle to try and bring about change or to support certain charities and community? What's the biggest sort of impact for on benefit for you as a club?
I think the biggest benefit is that it shows that everyone and anyone can, and that was the key message, was because we're not just getting everybody to be involved, but encouraging through our posts of what the achievements are, the fun part of it, and more importantly, the impact we're making globally as well and locally, you know, and I think the getting more, like we do regular posts, and I think if anybody's doing any work, is share what you've done, share examples and testimonials and stories of that side of it, because people are loving to really, they connect with you. That if we have one story here and one story there, and somebody's happy to share that, people will connect and say, oh my goodness, if Ghazala can do this and she went through grief, I just need to do something different as well, because I can. And there are clubs that will support everybody's story and every situation. And I think that, you know, there's a bigger heart in the football arena that is ready to embrace and hug everybody into the scene. And I think that message needs to be out there for people to say, I want to have a go, get a ball, or go and see somewhere. And we've got an event in London. We're going to, you know, and we're inviting everybody who wants to get there to join us, families, children, parents, get there, kick about with us, because we really are pushing it out for awareness. And that's important for people to also embrace that and share that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And, you know, Chris, Ghazala and Rachel, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all the amazing work that you're doing at your clubs. And I really hope that it's inspired, I'm sure it has, the listeners and participants of this session to go back to their own clubs and to take on some of the learnings and listen to some of the work that you're doing and start implementing within their own environments as well. And as we said, trying to create that environment, that culture where anybody can be a part of the club and be the best version of themselves and enjoy themselves is the key thing as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so for everyone else, we've got a short break now. So we'll be aiming to get started again at around 8:15. We'll probably leave a couple of minutes after just to give you a little bit more of a break on that one. And the next session then is inclusive communications, which I know is going to be a really good session. So make sure you join in for our final session of the evening before we finish at 9 o'clock. Now, just a note, we'll be back over on the virtual stage 2 on the workshops day 1 session link. Okay, so the same link that we had for the first session today. Again, if you scroll down in the program to the inclusive communication session overview, you'll have the specific link on there as well. Again, any issues, drop it into the chat on Slido, or drop us an email. But yeah, last but least, thank you again for joining us for this session, and for our speakers as well. We'll see you shortly over onto our last workshop of the day. Diolch yn fawr.